Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Let's head over to Davos. Salesforce CEO Marc Benioff speaks with Bloomberg's Brad Stone.
And Mustafa were not getting along well on panels that they were on here at Davos. You can go back and see that. I remember one specific panel that I was in, and it was thought they were going to come to blows, but it didn't happen.
And so, has Larry Ellison and Oracle, you think, stepped in as a technology partner or a source of funding for OpenAI?
I can't speak to those specifics, but what I can tell you is that I think it's a big moment in the history of OpenAI that they're not running on a Microsoft data center.
And how does it impact, I guess, Microsoft's competitiveness on AI going forward? We'll talk about CoPilot and the like, but do you feel like, because of these developments, Satya and Microsoft are in an unfavorable strategic position?
Well, I think, as you know, Microsoft doesn't have today their own frontier model. So they rely on OpenAI, and now OpenAI is saying that they're going to another data center structure. So it's a big moment.
Right. And to just close the loop on Stargate, part of this is obviously driven by national security concerns and the idea that, that it is vitally important for the U.S. to maintain this lead. I mean, do you share the concern and the urgency? And do you think China is close to AI parity?
Well, you have, 6 questions in there, Brad? Let's kind of peel it apart one by one. I think that we're just seeing a incredible amount of investment in AI overall, which is because it's really exciting. Look at what's happening here at the conference I just showed you. You know that Salesforce has run the information management for the World Economic Forum for more than a decade. So everything that's happening here is running on Salesforce, and we've used our Einstein platform here for years, but this is the year that we're using Agentforce. So now you have an agent that's front-end in your app.
You should probably define what that is.
Okay, well, what it is you have the ability now to use an agent, a kind of almost like a digital worker, to help you to kind of get your job done. So here I am, I have my app, I'm on my phone, I'm normally just bringing up my World Economic Forum app, I'm going through trying to find all my sessions, when is Brad speaking, how do I know Brad, can I contact Brad? Instead, now I can just say to the agent, hey, when is Brad speaking, and will you contact him for me and help me make this happen? At Salesforce, we just deployed our Agentforce technology on help.salesforce.com, which is how we deliver help to our customers. 36,000 customers a week come to help.salesforce.com. If you had come there a month or so ago, about 10,000 of those customers have to move off and get support from human beings, and about 26,000 got resolved by our software. Now with Agentforce, only 5,000 are going off to human beings. So our 9,000 support agents have a little bit less to do because the software is able to resolve a lot of this on its own. And that's a very exciting moment that AI and agents can kind of give us this incredible productivity that we couldn't have, whether we're trying to navigate the World Economic Forum in Davos or where Marc Benioff is trying to answer his customers' support issues. Agents are making a huge difference in our ability to be successful.
I want to come back to that, but I just want to make sure we answered the previous question on kind of AI parity between China and the U.S.
I don't think there is AI parity today.
Okay.
No, I think that the U.S. has a definitive lead, and I think most of the analysis, and I think obviously you have a big shootout going on at the very top end of the frontier models between Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. Salesforce is obviously an investor in Anthropic. We obviously have relationships with OpenAI and also Google. The Google technology, I think, is amazing. Neil Ferguson just wrote a tremendous analysis of the 3 models and kind of said it appears that Google
So Gemini is a player now.
I think Gemini is more than a player. It's probably ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and by the way, Dario preceded you on stage earlier this afternoon.
He has an outstanding model and is doing a great job in his company.
Okay, so back to Agentforce. You said less things for your employees to do with Agentforce, but does it also mean fewer employees? What are the ramifications of this kind of new age of agentic models going to unsupervised do our tasks for us.
No question. I mean, of course, in the history, look, technology is always getting lower cost and easier to use. There's not any, horses out on the streets right now going up, and now we have cars now. And in the same way, I think we should just think about the analogy I just gave you, which is that we have a lot less work for our support agents to do because we've deployed Agentforce at Salesforce. So I can redeploy that resource into other parts of the company. That's very exciting for me. I have plenty to do, so I can kind of say, okay, these folks can work on this now instead of being over here.
Has it changed the arc of your hiring plans going forward? And what does the widespread deployment of this technology mean for, a full employment labor market?
Well, that is really the powerful thing. We're in a labor market where it's really hard to hire people. There aren't people to hire. I want to radically expand sales and service and marketing at Salesforce because we are seeing a huge amount of demand in moving and deploying our new technologies. Finding those people incredibly difficult. That I have agents at my disposal is tremendous. Mm-hmm. So, look, I want an unlimited workforce. I think everybody does. Agentforce, AI agents, that's the beginning of an unlimited workforce. I'll give you an example. We have a customer called Wiley. They're a bookseller in the U.S. You probably have picked up some of their books when you were in college.
We know them well, yes.
You know them well. And, they have this moment every year called back to school, and they have to normally hire a lot of gig workers to go into sales or into service or whatever it is. This is the year they did not have to do it. They were one of our launch customers on Agentforce. They had the ability to just scale their sales and service when they needed it and then bring it back down when that demand spike ended. And we have now, lots of examples of that. So we've now released the code late October. We did about 200 deals in our third quarter. In our fourth quarter, we'll see thousands of Agentforce deals, and I've never seen anything go as fast at Salesforce as this. I've never been as excited about the technology industry as I am right now.
So in the tech industry, we love a good old-fashioned feud. We used to have a lot of them, like Larry and Bill sparring. Kendrick Lamar and Drake had nothing on the tech industry. But recently, you've been tweeting or posting on X as you describe Agentforce and drawing juxtapositions with Microsoft and CoPilot. Not to do more Microsoft bashing here, but I think you compared it to
Go right
Flippy.
ahead, Brad.
Yeah, no, but I want you to, because I don't know that I really fully got my brain around it, how the Agentforce model is different than the CoPilot model.
I can make it very simple.
Yeah, what are the two?
Well, first of all, you're right. Microsoft has disappointed a lot of customers with CoPilot. And the reason why is...
I'm not sure everybody agrees, but okay, go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, you can read the Gartner analysis, you can read a lot of the media, but I'm sure you're a big CoPilot user yourself, is that right?
I try to moderate my use.
Oh, I
a
see.
Bit.
So you don't use
I don't
it.
want
All right,
anything,
but you're like most people, you don't
my
use
writing
it.
For me.
All right, thank you. Thank you for making my case. But anyway, the point of it is all CoPilot is repackaged ChatGPT. So in a chart I just saw of like the 20 most used apps currently on the internet, like OpenAI was very much at the top. CoPilot was not on the list. I just retweeted it actually. So when you look at that, why that is because why use it? It's not really offering me any value. So Agentforce is really what AI was meant to be, the ability to give a company, a user, a customer, really the value of artificial intelligence. That's why I was excited to bring it to the show, excited that Davos has deployed it, and we can really show customers here that this is a really great opportunity. And an example, yesterday we were in a session with Royal Bank of Canada, who just deployed it for their wealth management. Look, their ability to scale and compete against the big U.S. banks when their wealth management is augmented because they're using Agentforce. That's very exciting for them. Their CEO, Dave McKay, is here. It was really a great moment to hear, what they're doing with this.
So before you mentioned the abundant capital flowing into AI, Anthropic, to even today, there was news of another $1 billion from Google. Is there any case to be made that AI is over-invested at this point?
No, there's not. I would say that we are really at a point where everything is changing. I think the evidence, like we just did a demo with your associate in the back here, where I just took out my phone and we were demoing the World Economic Forum app, And if we were here a year ago, we'd be looking at a very similar app, kind of going through what sessions are we going through, who's coming to the conference, I need to contact this person, all the typical things. And instead, I have this agent that I just can go right to and say, hey, do all this for me. That level of productivity, that's why in the third quarter of last year, we saw productivity rise in the U.S. without any additional workers. That really hasn't happened in a while. It's very exciting.
There was an AI margin there?
That I think that is exactly what is going on. I think AI is kind of kicking in. Right now I'm writing the business plan for my next fiscal year, which starts February 1. And this will be the third year in a row that I'm working with an AI to write my business plan for the year. So I have a colleague. We will write different parts of the plan. And then I will talk to the AI and I will say, hey, what do you think of this? How does this compete?
Presumably
will this help me?
Einstein, your own LLM, and not
we have some great technology. And then I'll say, hey, how does this affect this competitor? How does it affect that competitor? And I have been shocked at how it's impacted me, that it has made me more productive, but also expands my own consciousness on what I should be doing and leading and moving forward. So AI is definitely a part of how I run my company.
I am paid to be a little bit more skeptical. And when
You are? I didn't know that. How long have I known you for? And I never knew this about you.
It's been a while.
So I'm so happy to know this about you.
When I hear things like Larry, your former boss, Larry Ellison, saying today that there will be targeted vaccines for cancer using AI within 48 hours. I mean, it just feels like the exuberance is
I don't think he means in the next 48 hours.
No,
I think what he's saying is...
we understand 48 hours within diagnosis.
So I've actually talked to him about what he's doing. It is pretty incredible, his vision. His vision is that, there's these amazing kind of cancer tests that have kind of been developed, like Grail and others, where you could get a blood test and it shows you if you have these fragments of cancer in your bloodstream and so forth, and then they go to try to find the cancer. In this case, and I'm not going to describe it as beautifully as he did today, because it's his vision, his idea is that you're going to be able to run that same test and then use AI to have much more affinity on what's really going on, and then be able to use the mRNA technology to develop a highly personalized vaccine for that cancer and eradicate it from your body. That is pretty extraordinary. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet, but the vision is awesome. And you know what? I think we should be looking for innovation in the world, and it's exciting to see someone like Larry Ellison having a huge vision for cancer. He has invested lots of his own money in cancer treatment and has centers in LA and in Oxford, and it's been very impressive to see what he's done.
I want to hit a couple more topics before we are supplanted by a head of state. I think last year we talked about social media, and you sounded the alarm on misinformation and the lack of proper oversight. You've used some salty language, and in the last few months we have seen a retreat on moderation. What do you make of recent moves at Meta and the company formerly known as Twitter? And do you think it's dangerous?
Well, I think, my thoughts on social media is really well known, but I think that, we need to continue to look at the fundamental reshaping of, Section 230. I think if we are going to let these organizations go to every possible extreme, then they should be held accountable and liable for whatever the content is. And I think that when we look at Section 230, it wasn't written for this kind of moment, and especially with the age of AI, this is a time when we have to go back and do that, and I hope that the Trump administration will evaluate that. They've made a number of comments along those lines, and I think that is appropriate to get rid of that regulation so that these organizations can be held accountable. And I think you're a journalist. You're held accountable for what you write and what you put on your platform. So should they.
You have come to Davos in years past and made some pretty strenuous...
So one thing we said was positive.
Yeah.
So
well, we still have
good.
3.5 minutes. And you've made some pretty strenuous... laid out some strenuous climate goals. I think there was planting 1 trillion trees by 2020. I mean, how worried...
In fact, today, right now, actually, we're announcing that we're delivering the largest forest reserve in Earth's history in the Congo, and the President of the Congo is making the announcement, part of the 1 trillion tree announcement that we did 5 years ago, and we're almost at 200 billion trees. So we're not quite at a trillion, but we got to keep going.
Well,
and that will sequester 200 gigatons of carbon.
I wanted to ask you.
Okay, I'm glad you're excited about that.
I am excited. I love trees. We love trees.
I'm not sure you do, based on
Mark.
that, but you spent exactly about 5 seconds on trees and a lot on Larry Ellison. I think you like Larry Ellison more than trees, Brad.
Okay. My question is,
I'm just saying,
the
that's my
increased energy
observation.
use required to run these AI data centers, if the industry is sort of conveniently waving it away, talking about nuclear, if we've really accounted for the requirements that these companies are going to need as they scale up their operations.
Yeah, well, I think that whole idea that energy still needs to get rationalized against what's happening with these data center demands. And some of the stuff that's happening, I think, is there's some kind of indiscriminate kind of development and people just using as much as they can and so forth. I think at Salesforce, we continue to try to do our best to be a net zero company, including in the work of our AI. We'll deliver about 2 trillion AI transactions this week. We've been doing that for about a decade. You mentioned Einstein, now Agentforce. And even in the development of our own models and all of these things, we have not had these same exhaustive energy demands. And part of that's because of how we operate our own systems. But I think for everybody, there's probably an opportunity for another level of efficiency.
And what is the solution? Is it nuclear? Is it fuel cells? Like, how does the industry catch up to the energy use that will be required?
I think that how are we going to get more energy in the world? I mean, I'm not really an energy expert. I'm obviously a huge bull on fusion. I think what Commonwealth Energy is doing is incredible. I'm an investor in the company, and I hope that it's a huge success. And then, yes, I also think these kind of SMR nuclear, modular nuclear plants, I think there's a new one just going in Texas, for example, right now, and other places. I mean, if you think about it, we've run small nuclear for a long time. Everyone knows about nuclear submarines or nuclear aircraft carriers, right? And that's basically what we're talking about. Why don't we just take one of those and just plug it into our grid? We just don't think that way. But that's all we're really talking about, being able to just use the energy that we have in the world that's available to us and deliver it in a clean way. I think, obviously, we have to think about the amount of carbon we're putting into the atmosphere. It's very significant, not just from our emissions, but as you mentioned, the trees. And I hate to go back there because I know you have a detest for them. But, we used to have 6 trillion trees on the planet. Now we have less than 3 trillion. Every trillion trees is 200 gigatons of carbon. So that's 600 gigatons of carbon that we emitted through deforestation, and connecting that back to industrialization. We've only emitted about 200 gigatons through all industrialization. So you can see deforestation remains a major issue.
Last question, you can give me a yes or no.
Yeah.
You're the owner.
I know we've probably exited the trees now once again.
We're done with trees. Well, no, this is actually a tree question.
I understand.
You're the owner of
No
Time.
one's going to accuse you of being the Lorax, Brad.
You're the owner of Time magazine, a tree-based publication, at a time where it's very uncomfortable for media owners. There were reports that you're going to sell. Are you going to?
There's no deal on the table for Time. So if we do sign something, I will call you right away.
Marc Benioff, thank you very much.
Thank you.